When somebody's the president of the United States, the authority is total. And that's the way it's got to be.
Your authority is total.
It's total. It's total. And the governors know that.
So if
the governors know that. Now you have a couple of bands of excuse me.
Let us understand, North Vietnam cannot defeat or humiliate the United States. Only Americans can do that.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode, I think this is 17 now, of The Moral Minority. As always, I'm your not-so-humble correspondent, Marcel, and this is my host, who is also a host alongside with me, so you might call him a co-host, Dan. Say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
All right, let's see what we're going to talk about today. Dan, do you know? No, you don't, because you're not looking at the show notes, but I am.
No, I'm not. I'm sheltering in place.
Yes, I'm also sheltering in place. I know that everybody... a lot of people, even who listen to the show, are introverts. At least I hope so.
We're sheltering in place because we're good citizens. Also, we're very smart. Did you know we're supposed to be flattening the curve? Would you like me to explain what flattening the curve means? I know what flattening the curve means because I saw it in a Vox article. and if you don't want to stay in your house indefinitely, I'm going to talk to you like you're 6 years old about what flattening the curve means. I'm so smart.
Not only was it something everybody knew, but it became consensus.
Yeah, Tom Woods has been calling this coronavirus the revenge of the Midwits.
Yes.
So he said it gives them endless chances every day to go on Twitter and social media and condescendingly, smugly explain to people what flattening the curve... Well, I don't know if you know this. There's this thing called the curve, and we need to flatten the curve. And the way you flatten the curve, as if anyone doesn't know that.
Yeah, I don't want to flatten the curve.
Everyone doesn't know that.
I am blessed with a low time preference. I want to suffer all of my misfortune right now and have fun later. I don't want to experience low levels of misfortune over and over again for months. This is a perfect way to explain time preference theory, I think. And this should be the countervailing view from young, healthy people. Like, I have my whole future ahead of me. Let me get sick all at once immediately. Right. I don't discount the future.
And then think of the other end of that spectrum, which is even if you're an at-risk person, like you're an old person, how much time do you have left? And how much of that time do you want to spend shivering under a space blanket as opposed to seeing your grandchildren or going and golfing or going out and experiencing anything that's like life? I think if I was 80, I would be like, well, I'd rather be able to leave my home and risk that I might get the flu and die as opposed to, it's like, would you rather spend the next 2 years of your life hunkered down in your basement eating, expired cans of Dinty Moore, or would you rather maybe only get to live another 6 months, but you get to go to the movies and walk in the park?
It says something. It says a lot about our society that this is a disease that instead of getting, poor people and migrant workers like is normal, or like isolated towns in the Midwest, it's a disease that like seemingly hunts down rich boomers. And so now our entire society comes to a screeching halt to save them.
Nothing ever says anything about our society.
Yeah, this quarantine has like actually affected my life. Like, no, I know it's the typical introvert thing to say, like, oh, staying inside, but I stay inside and play video games all day anyway. People like boast about that.
Netflix. I love this. By the way, those people who say that should be killed.
Yeah, it's weird.
People who say, I love the quarantine. I'm getting caught up. I'm watching all the Marvel movies. If that is your opinion about this, it should be legal for me to come to your house and bludgeon you to death.
Yeah, I need to hear somebody complain about something. If you literally, because it's just a signal, right? It's showing that you're in the sort of gamer introvert club. I don't need to signal that. Everybody knows I'm a member of it.
Worst club ever.
Yes. But no, like, it's actually affected my life. Like, I can't go to the gym. I've had to just take walks in a circle, like some kind of hamster. That's kind of sucked.
That's going to burn all your gains, too.
Oh, yeah, it's going to burn. Oh, my God, yes.
Yeah.
And so
I fell for it. I've been doing body weight exercises at home, and I can feel myself becoming less and less Chad every day as I just waste away into an emaciated, skinny fat. This is mass psychological torture. The entire country.
Yeah, for me, I'm the threshold. So if the virus impacts your life even less than it affects my life when I am a graduate student who spends his days either reading, playing video games, or going to the gym. If it affects you even less than me, you are probably worthless to society.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Of course, again, this is constructed such that I am the threshold, so I am, of course, of benefit to society. Yeah. I'm good. But if you're not as good as me, you're terrible.
Yeah, where would the world be without smug long posts about the need for urban populations as opposed to rural?
It's in the nature of urban populations to be better than other people.
Wow, couldn't have lived without that.
Couldn't have lived without it, exactly. I mean, people clearly need to be reminded of these facts, but we'll get to this later. Political news. So Bernie has dropped out, and he's endorsed Joe Biden. This is simultaneously news and not news. As we've said many times in The More Minority, when you listen to us, you get the news 2 weeks ahead of times. But even the least observant members of our society probably knew that Bernie was going to lose, and he's probably going to endorse the DNC candidate again.
Not true, because the least observant members of our society are currently posting on Reddit about how I gave my heckin' unemployment arena to Bernie, and now I am not going to get my heckin' whatever school arena.
Okay, Dan. Yeah, I'm not sure how many of those stories are real. I know. So Marcel, I know on the real. Other end, the people saying Marcel,
Marcel, what? They're all real. Every one of them is real.
Yes. I know, though, that the people saying that they've gotten refunds from the Bernie campaign, that is explicitly a prank by, I really don't know any other way to say this, but by right-wing trolls from 4chan. Like, that was I saw that joke being constructed. It was just, like, go on Twitter and say, thanks, Bernie, for the refund. Oh, how'd you get the refund? Oh, you just got to know the right people. And that's obviously a joke because nobody is getting a refund.
No, that's not how scams work.
Yeah.
When the music man packs up to leave town, he doesn't give everybody their money back for the band instrument.
He doesn't even give his friends their money back.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, the only people who get their money back are the people who are explicitly part of the scam. Like, I need you to ensure the scam works to do this. And even then, you might still... It was like, I thought I was part of the scam. Like, you sure were. And then you leave.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I thought I was part of the scam. Oh, you were? You were a very important part of the scam. Goodbye.
And then finally, Barack Obama has went ahead and endorsed Biden. And he did so...
Shit, huh?
He had to wait until there was really no one else. I haven't even quite pinned down why Barack Obama waited so long.
Presumably because he did not want Joe Biden to be president. I don't know.
Either that, or if Barack Obama endorsed somebody, that's such a massive finger on the scale that if that person by some freak chance doesn't win the nomination, it will put him in the situation of having to, retract his endorsement and give it to somebody else. And Barack Obama is not the kind of person that can be seen to be changing his mind. That's
probably it, because I remember when he was president, that was like a common thing, was that every time he would go and campaign for some senator or congressman, they would get thrown out of office. Like, he always picked the losers to endorse. So he probably, was waiting until there was no way out. That way he could endorse without having to have the ego blow of his candidate losing.
Yeah.
Plus, for his long-term future, if he only endorsed winners, it'll continue because right now he has the status of a kingmaker in the Democratic Party, which makes no sense because he has no track record as a kingmaker. Yeah, so what he'll do is he'll pick all the winners after they've already won the race, and then he gets to be a kingmaker. Because look, every person I've ever picked won the nomination.
I did read an interesting article, which I'm not going to link in the show notes, but I read an interesting article that made the argument that the reason Bernie raised a lot of money. I think he raised more money than Biden by like an order of magnitude, and he still lost. And it's one of those things. Nobody can ever say that there's a problem with money in politics anymore. At this point, that a whole idea has been thoroughly smashed. If money in politics were this big deal, Bloomberg, would be the nominee, or Bernie would be the nominee. Like, money does not decide winners. President. Right, power decides.
Or Jeb would have been the Republican nominee.
And so Biden has a point. All that energy that you say you have, I have less money than you, and I'm winning. And so that was surprisingly astute for someone who doesn't remember their own name. But this article made the case that the reason that Bernie did so poorly this time is because Bernie effectively got woke. That is, Bernie, may have been, the Democratic Socialist candidate. But for those of us who have memories that go back more than 10 years, you'll remember that Bernie used to be, for example, skeptical of NAFTA, of immigration. He wasn't even that tough on guns, things like that. But he really pivoted against all those things and went full into the progressive racial, gender, sexual agenda of the Democrats this time. And the white working class vote, getting that was Bernie's hidden weapon. And he totally gave that up. What do you think of that, Dan?
You said Bernie didn't do as well this time. Do we know his fundraising totals this time versus last time?
I don't have them right now, nor do I feel like pausing the show to look them up right now, but they were better.
Right. Well, then I would say to the people at home, if you're trying to figure out if Bernie did better or worse this time, don't go by anything other than fundraising totals.
Yeah.
I've been getting backlash on the internet for this, but you have to break out of this idea, not you specifically, I mean the listener, that the Bernie campaign was a presidential campaign. It was not. It is a fundraising scam. That's all it is. The purpose of the Bernie campaign is to raise massive amount of money for Bernie, which he can funnel into his pockets and the pockets of his friends and family, usually through media buys, but also through 501c4, whatever organizations that he can put his family members in the employ of. It's just a way to legally raise lots of campaign contributions and turn those into cash in hand. That's all it is. So if Bernie raised as much money as he did last time or more, then it's a smashing success, even if he didn't get a single vote. Getting votes was never the point. Don't give him more credit than he deserves.
To give an idea of how strange Bernie's quote-unquote campaign was, one of his most popular positions was Medicare for all. I am not speaking as though I support these policies. I am simply speaking as somebody who was talking about how you win elections and how Bernie did not act like somebody who wanted to win an election. Medicare for all is something that is very popular, more popular than ever. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez actually convinced Bernie to stop campaigning on this. This was one of the most popular issues Bernie was for. The only time it wasn't popular was when Democrats suddenly decided that they were going to provide it to illegal aliens as well. AOC, when she was, doing speeches at Bernie rallies, sometimes wouldn't even say Bernie's name and was talking about queer liberation, abolishing ICE. There was one case where Jacobin Magazine and Current Affairs, which are both very pro-Bernie, were demanding that supporters respect a, quote, truce between Warren and Bernie, a truce which Warren's side had no intention or even had never expressed an interest in having.
Yeah.
So Bernie was really being neutralized at like every step of the way by progressives.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Bernie's campaign got woke. I don't want to say, he was hijacked. I mean, he kind of... No, actually, I will say, yeah, Bernie's campaign, to the extent that Bernie's campaign was a real attempt to actually achieve political office, it was absolutely hijacked by progressives. The same thing, or a similar thing, by the way, happened with Jeremy Corbyn in the UK. I know I only get to talk about it from time to time, but I actually saw an article from The Independent confirming what many in the British Labour Party had said, that the party is being sabotaged from within by people who hated Jeremy Corbyn because they believe that he is an anti-Semite. The other policies that Jeremy Corbyn took were denouncing Brexit, when that was, again, one of the things. Brexit won a national referendum. It is, just by definition, more popular than unpopular. And Jeremy Corbyn, compared to everybody else in the Labour Party, was silent on the issue while it was happening, which for somebody on the left to not, screech that Brexit is racist, basically the same thing as endorsing it. But then once he thought he had a shot at the nomination, started saying, oh, maybe a second referendum. Like, why would you do that? Why would you say that? Why would you sell out like this? The answer is because leftist politician, of course, but that's the real lesson here.
Yeah, again, with the whole, as you said, this idea that Bernie's campaign does not look like someone who's trying to win an election. When we look back at the last time he campaigned, he had a lot of great material that anyone trying to win an election would have used about Hillary Clinton that he chose not to use. Now you could say, oh, that's because he's on the plane, this higher plane of existence where we talk about ideas, and he doesn't want to get into that. But then when you ask him directly about it, he doesn't just say, I don't want to talk about that, I want to talk about issues. No, when Hillary Clinton was asked